How's everything going, you guys that are here already? In a couple of words in the chat, do you want to let me know how the challenge has been going for you so far? How are you finding the lessons and everything around them? All the downloads. Hi, Diane. Welcome, welcome. We're just sharing in the chat how things are going with the challenge. If you have anything to, oh, good. Cynthia, it's very productive. That's exciting. I'd love to hear more. Let me know how many cards you have produced or how you're feeling about how it will go when you are producing your cards. We could have had the sound on, but I think it's best actually for it to be off while we do our little chat with Lindy. I'm glad you're enjoying the templates. Now, I'm not sure if I'm getting a little bit of a lag here. Let me know if I'm taking too long to answer. I feel like you guys are typing and then there's a lag. But yes, the templates are really exciting, Diane. And I was just rewatching the tomorrow's videos and it reminded me of how much fun they are to use and how I can't wait for you guys to see those particular ones as they start rolling out. I think I'll get started because I want to tell everybody about our special guest today, who is Lindy. And I know a few of you know her if you've been in the membership or if you've been in previous card challenges. Lindy is, of course, now my community manager. And we were hanging out well before then. I met Lindy through Leverage Your Art, and we were in a peer group together. And she became such an active member of my community to the point where she was in there as much, if not more than me, and helping people out when I was ready to hire somebody to help me, she was the absolute first person I thought of. In fact, I was watching what she was doing in the community and I thought, I need a community manager like her. And then I thought, well, I wonder if she would work for me. And she agreed to. So that's how that came about. We've got a lot of shared history in the sense that we've both done a lot of in-person sales and have built our businesses very similarly, where I started out just making cards and trying to sell them, just sort of one-offs or taking them to a local gift shop to sell, and then kind of rolled that into going to craft sales. And then that's where Lindy and I really, our paths were very similar because she's done craft sales or craft markets for years. I did them for many years, and it came to a point where I realized that I couldn't do that forever. I was already older when I was doing it, and I didn't want to just limit myself to what I could sell when I was with people in person. So I wanted to figure out a way to scale my business. And so that's when I started printing cards instead of doing one of kind of things. And once I did that, I was able to scale my business, literally scale my business. So we're going to be talking with Lindy about that today. We'll do about 40 minutes of chat between Lindy and I, and then we're going to do questions at the end because there is so much for us to unpack here as we talk about this whole idea of scaling your business and getting involved with getting your cards printed, and then we'll touch on POD, and we'll definitely talk about card aisle, which is 1-800-Flowers. So have I covered everything, Lindy, or do you want to share with us your origin story? Like in your words, I've kind of just given an overview, but I want to hear in your words how you would describe that.
Hi, everybody. I'm so glad that I get to spend a little bit of this afternoon or this morning or this evening, depending on where you are in the world, that I get to spend a little bit of time with you today. I am, what I say is I'm an abstract artist. I love to do acrylic flow paintings, and I've also dabbled in watercolor and pretty much any type of medium there is. I've definitely tried. I've been a lifelong artist from when I was little all the way till now. And it's funny that I just never chose it as a profession. I came around the long way and now I get to do what I love. And so I do a lot of abstract art, I do a lot of hand lettering, and that's where things started for me. I have a business. It's called Sassy Since Birth, and I do pop ups all around San Antonio, Texas, where I currently live, and around Central Texas. So a lot of my art is bright, fun, vibrant. The quotes that I usually use tend to be a little bit more sassy and have a little bit of an attitude for them, but also just overall very much positive and bringing just like good mantras, anything that will put you in a good mood, or the words that I like to use, anything that can be inspiring. It's been a fun adventure. Slowly, my business has grown. I started a pop-up market back in 2013 with a borrowed table, a tent little canopy that had a hole in it, and a borrowed light that I had to configure to hang from the top. And that's where it started. I didn't make any money my first market. I think I didn't have the right product at the time. And honestly, I had just taken some art that I had hanging on the wall and tried to sell it. And I think I was too attached to them, so I priced them a little too high because I think wholeheartedly didn't want to sell them. But ultimately learned a lot and continued to grow. And now I get to participate in some very big markets here in Central Texas. It's just been an amazing journey through the pandemic. I think all of the hard work that I had put into my business, I was able to survive through that, which was really nice. I had a very supportive community of customers that continued to purchase from me, continued to buy from me, and continued to help my business grow. The downside is, as my business has grown, it's been increasingly difficult to keep up with demand, especially because most of my products up until now had all been handmade. So paintings were, one of a kind, one for one, no real backstock. And over time, the grind of running through your inventory, selling out of products at a market, which is definitely a good problem to have, also created a whole nother few weeks of trying to churn out as much inventory as I can, just being one person in my business. So back in 2023, when I took Leverage Your Art, I think I was going through a major burnout period in my business, just not really knowing how to continue to just sustain my business and not lose my mind. I was staying up way too late, working so hard just to keep up and just to survive, and it wasn't feasible anymore. So Leverage Your Art really opened my eyes to new possibilities, to small batch manufacturing, to things like print on demand, things like art licensing, and just gave me a framework of just what was possible. And I think that's the biggest thing that I took from it, is learning what's possible, what's out there, and just seeing what other artists are doing. And I think being in a creative community, especially one like Dolores has been so beneficial, because I think we can all create very similar things and we can all be creating with similar medium. But when you see everybody posting their art or sharing their art, everybody's everybody's style is so different, and we all bring something special to the table. And so I've really been able to explore that and be able to create new things. Sure. Okay. So after Leverage, small batch manufacturing just seemed like where I needed to be as far as bringing new items to market, because I really wanted to be able to create stickers and greeting cards. Those were the two top things on my list. And in order to do that, I didn't want to have to be making every single sticker myself. I wanted to get out of that notion of having to do it all myself and really finding ways to get things done in big batches. And so that's where my exploration for digital art came in. And so immediately after Leverage, I dove into printing greeting cards, which was really exciting. And really, I couldn't thank Dolores enough for her guidance on how to get them printed and how to do it in an economical way that made sense for my business. Because I think that's so difficult in the beginning, is when you have a limited budget and you're not sure where to put those dollars, when you have someone to guide you and say, look, this is the way to do it, this is the best way to spend your money because you're going to get the most value for it. I mean, that is priceless. And so I was able to get those up and running really quickly. And so those added a lot of things to my market at the end of 2023. So when I moved into 2024, I was hooked on creating digitally. For the first time, I felt like I had a path to create digitally. I was diving deeper into Procreate and really trying to hone my skill because I had never given myself time to really learn Procreate. And so Dolores joining her Thrive meetings, which are just pivotal to keep you motivated. We meet every Tuesday at 6 o'clock Central Time. And I look so forward to those meetings because they help you stay motivated and they help you stay engaged in the community. And so every meeting, she would tell us, really should check out Cardile. If you did one card a day by the end of the year, you could have 365 cards on Cardile. And so it was very much like the mantra she would tell us week by week. And it took till the end of January 2024 for me to finally, it was late on a Sunday, and I'm okay. I guess I'll make some greeting cards. I know what I'm doing. I've done greeting cards before. Let's just give it a shot. So I made 6 greeting cards and got them posted to Cardile. And I just waited for the magic to happen. Well, nothing happened. In all honesty, nothing happened. So I continued to create. And I think what I set my mindset when I started Kyle, and the mindset was I wanted to give myself permission to learn Procreate because I knew it was going to take time. But me being a business person, I also felt like I couldn't really justify taking so much time to learn Procreate if I didn't have somewhere to try to sell the artwork that I was creating. And that's where the perfect marriage of Cardile came in. It allowed me to explore Procreate, create something that was very simple, like a greeting card, and then gave me an outlet to post that greeting card so that I could potentially sell it. And so that's the mindset that started my journey with Cardile. And it's a long game. I'll be 100% honest. My first quarter on Cardile, I sold 12 cards. And that's 3 months of continually posting. And I sold 12 cards. And I remember at the time telling some of my family what this new journey I was embarking on. And when they heard the 12 cards and then heard about the royalty, because the royalty is small, it's 20 cents a card. I don't know if this is really worth your time. How is this going to work? I really had to just kind of stay positive and not be frustrated, but it was hard. I'm 100% going to tell you it was difficult. I went through the first card challenge with Dolores, and we got amazing insights from Shannon from Cardile. And we were able to ask her lots of questions, and she answered very openly and freely. There was also another member in our membership, Annalie, who had been on Cardile and had a lot of experience. And our brains kind of worked the same, very investigative. So we would chit chat often back and forth on our theories of Cardile, what works, what doesn't work, what we've noticed, things like that. But really, Cardile was easy. It was easy to upload. And it's kind of one of those things, there's really no fuss with it. You have your card, you upload it, and then they do all the work on the other end. And so I didn't really have to worry about having the perfect product description. I didn't really have to worry about marketing it. I could just have a place to put my art and try to grow. And what I hoped to gain was knowledge on what would be the best seller for me and what would sell well. And so that's why I decided to do Cardile, because it just easy to upload and you just put it up and then you just keep going. And I really liked that. And I just hoped for the best.
So when you talk about learning about Cardile and trying to help that guide you with what you were creating, can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I think we've all found separate niches that seem to be working for us. Can you
Right.
expand on that a little bit more or advise everyone
Sure.
here what would you do if you
Yeah.
were just starting?
So for me, I definitely would give yourself a firm like 6 months before you decide to jump ship, because it really wasn't until the 6 month mark that I finally started to make some progress. My first quarter was 12 cards. My second quarter, I think, was like 42 cards. And I was really bummed at the second quarter because Mother's Day, the biggest card selling day of the year, I thought I was going to hit it big, and I didn't. And so when that quarter ended, I was really like, do I even want to keep pushing forward with this? Do I want to continue with something that really isn't giving me the results or showing me the results that I wanted? And ultimately, I decided, like, no. If I'm going to do this, I've got to give it my all. I've got to stay consistent. And I had to reframe and reset that mindset that I had about it. And I decided to keep going. And I lucked out with selling a few Father's Day cards. And so I got some Father's Day cards sold. That was really exciting for me. Also, super challenging for me. All of my artwork is super girly. So designing Father's Day cards was definitely a challenge because it's not in my wheelhouse. But I did the best that I could. I put some cards out there. Those started to sell. And so that third quarter is what really changed the game for me on Card Isle. In the third quarter, there's really no big holiday. It's the summertime, there's no major holiday, and you're like, well, what am I going to sell? So I just threw everything at the wall. There's a good list on Card Isle, and you can search for it in the Facebook group that they put out of holidays to think about and to work on. And I just took that list and I just went down it. And I did 4th of July. I did Grandparents' Day. And Grandparents' Day is finally what got me over the edge because I made several cards for grandmothers, several cards for grandfathers, and those got put on to 1-800-Flowers. And once I made that transition to getting some cards on 1-800-Flowers through Card Isle, that really helped my sales grow. And I ended up that quarter with 128 cards sold, and I was ecstatic because I just thought, I can't believe it. 128 cards in a quarter that has no major holiday. That, how can you go wrong? And I finally felt like, okay, I can do this. Like, I just got to keep repeating what I'm doing and being consistent. And in the fourth quarter, I think I sold over 500 cards. I had a Christmas card that went really well. I think I sold almost 200 of one particular Christmas card, and that really helped my sales. I had some Thanksgiving that went well. I did some for Hanukkah. I've done all kinds of cards. I've tried all the different holidays, and that's been fun because they're things I normally wouldn't work on, especially not in the previous iteration of my business. I've never done holidays because I've never wanted to get stuck with inventory that's related to holidays. But because Card Isle is online and because those designs are licensed through them, I can do holidays now and it's not a big deal because if it sells, great. If it doesn't, it's not a big deal. I don't have a stack of them sitting somewhere that didn't sell. So it gave me that opportunity to really explore and really just have fun. And I think once I started having fun and remembering what I liked about making greeting cards, then things really started to fall into place.
I have a couple of questions here that I think you could probably answer for us. And
Okay.
these are from Michelle. And one of the things that, well, Michelle was answering, I guess, is first of all, is Cardile print on demand? And if it isn't, then can you explain the difference and explain sort of how it works now that they have amalgamated?
Okay. So Cardile, I think some people would consider it print on demand. I think it's a version of print on demand because they are printing the cards once somebody buys them. So in that regard, it very much feels like print on demand, but it is completely different also because with traditional print on demand, you're still in charge of writing those product listings. Not you upload your artwork, you have to do the product listings, you have to have somewhere to list that POD item. So you'll need to either have it on Etsy or your own website or have it hosted on the POD provider's website. And so that in that regard, it's different. You have to really work at getting that work seen with a more traditional POD. But with Cardile, because their whole premise is that they bring cards to anybody and everybody. They have it started through a network of florists and standalone kiosks like a Redbox. If anybody remembers the Redbox DVD systems where you could walk up and rent DVDs and the machine would just pop out the DVD. They wanted the same premise for Card Aisle. They wanted to have kiosks where you could walk up, go through their catalog of cards, hit print, and then walk out with a card specifically tailored to you. So they've gone through several iterations of that. The kiosks have been phased out. They do have print partners with other companies. So, like, they work with Godiva Chocolates, they work with a couple of different corporate gifting companies and they have a extension that gets added onto their browsers. So that way on their website, when you go to purchase, at the end of your purchase, you're asked, would you like to add a greeting card? And at that time, people can select from the library and they can add a greeting card that way. So you have third-party sellers like that. You have the Cardile site, which requires you to, this was a little complicated because this is where the shift has happened. The original Cardile site, you would shop their catalog, pick out your cards, and then you would have to send that order to a participating florist in your area to get those cards. And then you would drive to that florist, you would pick up your cards, and then you would go about your way. That is, I think, slowly being phased out in a way. They have come out with a new website and they are doing more straight direct to consumer. So you would go online, you would pick out your card, you would write your sentiment, and then you would tell them where to send it. And they would put a stamp and an envelope and they would send it out directly to the recipient for you. So that is what they're trying to do now. I think it's been a long time coming. I don't know what took them so long to make that shift, but now they're trying to go direct to consumer. And with 1-800-Flowers, since they've merged, 1-800-Flowers now has a catalog of Cardile cards on their website that you can buy. And before, it still had to run through a florist, but now these are standalone cards that can be purchased on 1-800-Flowers. And what you would do is you would go on, select your card, and the cool thing is you can add a video message that they include through a QR code. And you can also add gift cards from any of 1-800-Flowers participating retailers. So that's nice too, because you can send pretty much a complete gift through 1-800-Flowers. You can do the card, you can do the gift card, you can do a nice video message, and they will mail it, stamp it, mail it, and send it out for you. So I think that this is a great concept, and I think it's going to be beneficial in the long run, but they have to work out a couple more hiccups first.
Yes, and just so you know, both Lindy and I, we don't affiliate for them or anything. Sounds like we're doing this big ad for Cardile. I also sell on Zazzle. There's plenty of sites that you can sell through. You don't have to pick Cardile. It's just one that I have had a ton of success with. So that's why I endorse it and I use it consistently because it's just a good one for me. I've had plenty of students who are also doing Greeting Card Universe, and some people really love working with Greeting Card Universe. I've got cards listed there. I'm still selling through them. And what is really great about the process that they have is that they have like an art director between you, and the acceptance of your card. So they will work with you to help you improve your card. If you are especially just starting out, that could be a good process for you as well. It's a completely different upload process in a way because it has to go through that approval, which is they've got it really well organized in my opinion as to how they do it. So it's a little bit more time consuming in that you do have to go in and make changes if they request them. And I remember one of the things that most of mine would be okay and they would go through, but there was things using the ellipsis, like the three dots. There's a correct way to use it, and you had to use it exactly the way it was supposed to be. So that was just one of the errors I remember clearly there. And that would go through on Cardile. Nobody would question you, right? It would just, you would just upload it and that's how it would be available. So there are differences with the sites. With Zazzle, what I find is that I like the process of being able to upload artwork for the back of your card. So you're working on a full folded 5x7 card and it lets you lay everything out exactly the way you like it. I've seen cards that have been done by from Cardile that have been done by the customer, and a lot of time, personally, I would be very picky about how the print on the middle, like the inside would be positioned, if you know what I mean. So if it's just a regular person at a office that's been told to create a card and send it, it's not necessarily going to be really pretty in the middle and on the inside. So that's something to keep in mind. It's really super cool to use the 1-800 Flowers website to order gifts. I've just done that recently and it was super cool to get to the point where I could add a card and I could choose a card out of this huge catalog of cards that they have. So that was a really neat thing that they do. And if you are curious, go to the 1-800 Flowers website, and along the top of the main page, they list all of their partners. They show all of their partners that they work with. So that's also very interesting. It's a good little bit of research for you to do because I was going to then have Lindy speak to her process. Like, what would you consider to be sort of mistakes? What kind of thing do you want to suggest to everyone here in the challenge to think about when they're designing the cards, and maybe just how different it might be from one site to the other? You tell us what you think, and then I will add to it.
Yeah, so I think for me, I think doing some research is always, I like to do research on different things. I like to know what I'm getting into or see what's out there. Would visit the card aisle at Target and go through and see maybe the different layouts that I'm seeing or how they're displayed. I liked to look at how the back of the cards were, even like what the inside of the card looked like and what they were saying, because I didn't really have a lot of experience with writing prose for the inside of the card. I felt confident doing the outside of the card, but really didn't have a lot of experience with working with the inside. So I would just peruse the card aisle at the card aisle at Target, just seeing what the different cards were available. And then I also, it was funny because I was looking at cards and there was a lady behind me and she was looking for a card for, I think, a family member or something. And so I hear her picking up all these different cards and she's like, oh, too long, too long. Oh, that one's too long. Oh, I like this one. Oh, but it's too long. Oh, like she wanted something short, something like to the point. She didn't like anything that was overly gushy or too many, like a full paragraph. She just wanted something like that immediately caught her eye, that she could read quick and like move on. And so then I was, well, okay, let me see what I can. That was a good tip to kind of see what people, something else to try. And I think in that beginning stage with Cardile, it was all trial and error. I did a lot of hand lettering, but I also used stuff that had typeface to it, that was just all typed out. I tried different fonts. I've tried longer prose, shorter prose. I kind of just tested a whole bunch of different things, trying to figure out what the sweet spot is. And honestly, I don't know if I have an exact formula of making the perfect card that will go viral. I don't know if anybody has that exact formula because I think art is so subjective. And so what one person likes, somebody else might not like. And I think that's how come so many in the community have been able to find success on Cardile or Greeting Card Universe because you have a whole wide audience of people out there that are all searching for something different and something unique. But what unique means to them, or what art means to them, we don't necessarily know. So I think that's what leads to there being so many different styles on Cardile, but so many people able to have success. So I know in our community alone, we have several people that have had cards that they've sold 500 of a Mother's Day card. They've sold 300 of a Valentine's Day card. And some are simple, some are very intricate. Some, it's surprising, I think, sometimes. I think Kristen shared in the Facebook community recently a grouping of cards that she had posted to Cardile, and she was very surprised by the one that was getting the most attention. And she felt like it was one that had a very more illustrative vibe to it. It wasn't some of her more intricate, detailed work. And I think that's you'll find what works for you, but you kind of got to just keep trying. And I think you have to keep finding and honing your style, because I think that's really what brings uniqueness to the table, when you can have a style that you can easily replicate or carry through when you're creating.
Yeah.
I think that's so beneficial. And it's beneficial too, because then you can use those cards for other applications. So I know we're talking about Cardile today, but we also want to be mindful. Okay, we want these to be successful on Cardile, but now we have this huge library. Well, let's not just let it sit on Cardile. Let's try to expand it and use it in other places. And let's try to, and maybe we can license some of those cards, or maybe we can put those on a different site. I know some that I end up using that I sell at markets that I've now been able to pull because I know they do well. So I think we can't just look at it like these cards are only going to live on one platform forever. This is really a jumping off point, especially when you're new, to give yourself that permission to create, but then to also start building those libraries of cards, those collections of cards that you can then leverage into other paths and take different avenues to generate income for your business.
Yeah, I agree 100% with that. And on Thursday, we will have art licensing expert, Vanessa, who will talk to us a little bit about that. And I think one of the reasons that doing this kind of thing, like Lindy says, working and creating, just constantly creating and honing in on your style, is that you can then get to that point where you are having a real signature style that is really you. And then that will open the doors to your art licensing opportunities. So you'll hear tons about that on Thursday. I think that's going to be one of the things that'll really change your mind. And it's definitely something that with the VIP challenge this year that I've been really trying to focus on, is that whole idea of trying to develop cards that go together and have a bit of a look to them. If you were to go back to my card aisle from way back in the day, you would see that I was all over the place. I was doing all kinds of different stuff. I'm not sure if I can, let's see if I can share my screen here and find. Always happens when I want to do something that I just have too many things open and I can't find the window that I need to get to. But maybe I'll just keep talking. Never mind. I will try to connect that at some point, but basically what I was trying to say is that I think that if you can develop a bunch of cards that go together, you're going to be better off because you can then really judge your own statistics. So you'll go into your sales and you can take a look at what is really selling. And after a few months of it, or a few quarters, you will really start to see which cards really appeal to the masses. And like Lindy said, there's so many different markets, so many different tastes, so many types of people. But if they like the look of your card and that's the kind of thing that they come back to, then it's really in your best interest to have cards that look like they all belong together, that look like they were made by you. So that is just a really important point, Lindy, that you've talked about.
So my workflow usually is, so I usually try to do thumbnail sketches I was new to the idea of thumbnail sketches when Dolores brought them to my attention when we did the first card challenge. And it seemed foreign to me to sketch on my iPad, and I'm not sure why, because I sketch in a sketchbook all the time. Like for my lettering, I have I have piles of sketchbooks that are just all lettering that I've sketched out and drawn and all of that. So it just seemed foreign to me to do it on an iPad, but I actually have loved it. And it's one of my favorite things to do is to sketch out things and have that framework to work with. And especially because I work in Procreate, although I'm learning Affinity, I do mainly work in Procreate. So for me, sketching has really helped because once I have everything positioned and sized the way that I want it to, then it's easier for me to just pop that sketch in and then start drawing on top of it. So I'm not having to really reposition things or adjust sizing or anything like that to keep all of that to a minimum. And so sketching has definitely been an important thing. I pick a theme that I want to work on, and I try to work in sixes because in the wholesale industry, a lot of that they buy in sixes. So a sets usually come in sixes. When you're buying wholesale, they buy in the quantity of six. So six is just what I try to do. If I'm doing one set theme, I try to do six of them at the minimum. And then if more flesh out, more flesh out. I do try to do that. And I pick a theme. So it could be either a holiday specific theme or it could be sympathy. When I'm lost for what to work on, I usually end up working on like sympathy or birthday. But again, those are crowded categories. So you really have to be mindful and kind of targeted if you're going to work in a crowded category. If it's a birthday, maybe it's a birthday for a grandma or an aunt or for a child, or maybe for a specific, milestone birthday. Same thing with sympathy. Sympathy can be very crowded. So maybe I'll do a set of 6 sympathy cards that are all geared towards women, maybe losing a mother or mother figure, an aunt, a sister, sister-in-law, something like that. Again, something a little bit more targeted. And that's what I've learned over time is sometimes I'll just go through the card aisle cards, see what's missing, what isn't available, because a lot of these categories have lots of cards. And you'll notice that when you're scrolling, it'll be page after page, especially in birthday. You've got so many birthday cards. So how can you bring something different to the table to that to kind of get that, a little bit of attention? And so once I do that, I'll work on those cards. I add them to my file. I have a file for all of my card aisle cards. I have them all numbered, and then I go to the upload process. Now, I know a lot of people keep a master spreadsheet with their tags and their titles and everything. I don't. I know I'm bad, but I don't. It's just one more thing to kind of slow me down in the process. And if I'm ready to upload, like I'm ready to upload. I don't want to have to put it somewhere else to then ultimately put it somewhere else to put it somewhere else. I just want it to be a smooth thing. So I keep all of my cards in a folder, and then usually what I do, I'll open up card aisle. And what I usually try to do is at first I was posting 6 at a time. But what I noticed is because card aisle has people that actually review the cards, and they have an internal ranking system that they grade the cards based on. And so they have an extra, you can get extra points if they really like something so they can push it further in the algorithm further up. So because of that, I didn't really want someone to get bored seeing 6 of my cards, especially if I'm doing something that's very cohesive, because that's the other drawback. When you're working with something that's super cohesive, everything can look the same, which is what you're going for. But when you have someone who's reviewing those cards to put them up on card aisle, you also don't want to bore them seeing the same similar image, because I found if the images were too similar, some would be posted right away, others wouldn't be. And so it's a little bit more selective. And so I started to change it up. And And so I like to post 2 cards every day or as close to every day as I can. And so I would just set my morning to pick the 2 cards I was going to upload them to Cardile. And it's an easy form with drop downs that you fill out. The only challenging part is your hashtags. But again, you'll start to get used to doing the hashtag thing. You're limited to 10. So it's not you're going to do 20 or 30 or 40. You're limited to 10 hashtags per card. And then I use ChatGPT for the pros. I let them figure out what it needs to say on the inside. I tell them the theme, tell them what voice I want it to be in, how I want it to sound, or if I want it to be humorous or serious or whatever. And then I just copy and paste from ChatGPT into Cardile, and that's it. And I keep it simple because keeping it simple helps me stay consistent. That's just what works for me. It's just all about learning, and you have learn what works for you. And I think whatever is going to help you to stay consistent is probably going to be the best thing, because I do find that consistency is what pays out in the end. Not only for me, I'm averaging about 40 cards a week now. For the last 2 quarters, it's been about, well, for the last quarter for sure, it's been about 40 cards a week, 40 to 50. And then before that, it was about 20 to 30. And I was just hoping for 1 card a day, honestly. If I could sell 1 card a day, I would be happy with that. But yeah, it's been surprising. And I think the biggest shift that I've seen is that with my greeting cards, once I started to sell more greeting cards, then the number of views that I was getting on my greeting cards, that was the game changer. So that lifted me up in the algorithm, that pushed me farther. It allowed me to sell a lot more cards. Now, older cards that really didn't get attention before now have attention on them. So it's been definitely the game changer, really getting that conversion rate up. So you want to keep your conversion rate at about a minimum at 40, but I like to sit around 60% or better. So some cards I have almost 100, I have 100% conversion rate on. As soon as someone clicks it, they purchase it. I have some that have over 100%. I think because some of those views aren't tracked all the time, especially if they come from an outside third party. But you really want to have the best conversion rate you can to be able to really fight through the noise in the algorithm. So yeah, that's been a really big game changer to me. And I know that that's also been what's shifted for a lot of people. I know Alona, who's in our membership, she had an Easter card just go wild and sold a whole bunch of cards for her. And that really had shifted her sales and uplifted all of her cards. So she stayed super consistent. And she was another person that saw very little sales the path, but she was determined to stay consistent and to keep going. And she did, and she finally started to get those cards that really grabbed people's attention. And I think everybody finds their own niche of what mine has been. Grandparent and grandma cards. I have several of those that have sold really, really well.
My sympathy.
I have a birthday card that's a simple birthday card. It has a giant bow on it. We all know right now bows are big, and that card has just been selling like crazy. So it hasn't been on Cardile for very long, a couple of months, and I think over 100 cards on that one.
That's
so
great.
I had a Easter card that I really didn't even particularly like. I just threw it up, and that sold over 200 cards. And so
You
for
just
this,
never know
so
what appeals to who.
yeah, so right now I'm just over 2,100 cards sold on Cardile in total since I started in January of 2024, end of January 2024. And for the quarter, for this month, I'm over 500 cards, and the quarter ends in a few weeks. So it's been a pretty good quarter as well. Last quarter was a little bit higher because I had that really great Easter card. But for the hiccups that we've had during this last quarter, Shannon is no longer with Cardile, and that has been a loss that we have felt. I have felt deeply because I felt like I could email her, and we had a very good email relationship where I could ask her questions. She was very responsive. Any issues, any problems, she was there to help. And so losing her has been really difficult. I have noticed that, and then so now where I'm at now too is wondering who's reviewing the cards and what are they drawn to, because I think had figured out what Shannon was drawn to. She really liked the watercolor cards. I think a lot of us did watercolor cards and found success with those. I haven't seen that lately, so I'm wondering what the new reviewers are thinking and being drawn to. So it's like starting all over again, but I think that's just the nature of it. And
I
again,
love
what makes
that
our
that you have,
perspective.
I mean, what I
Yeah, you're
love
fine.
about it is that you went from almost giving up
Yeah.
to now selling the amount that you're selling. And
Mhm,
when I did the screen share, were you guys seeing
mhm,
it when I was
yeah,
scrolling through my cards? Okay, I'm going
mhm.
to take you into that again. Oh my God, why does this happen to me every time when I'm going to share? Okay, can you see this graph?
Mhm.
My Cardile. So this is this quarter on Cardile. So I've sold 5,636 cards. And you can see if you were to look at my graph here, what a jump it's been recently. So since they became a part of 1-800 Flowers, I want to show you that that's this quarter. Okay. So I want to put this all into perspective for you. I'm going to show you since I've been on the site. So since 2015, so that you can see how this could work for you. So look at this. Like it was, I was 5 years in before I could really even say that I had any sales at all. So I could go back. I've looked at these years and I was selling only a couple hundred cards at a quarter. But
Mhm.
now at least
And so, yeah, for reference, just to jump in, the blue that you see, the tealy blue is those are views, and then the red is the sales. So you can definitely see where, like I said, with when it shifts, when you start having more sales than views, and then that's really when you start seeing the progress kind of take off.
yeah, and you can compare your sales. I could see that from last quarter to this quarter. So this quarter, I've actually sold more in
Mhm.
this quarter than I did in all of last quarter. And the other thing that I really like is being able to take a look here at the sales for each of my cards here. And this very first one here is a sympathy card. And look how many sales I've made on that one card. And really
Can you
hasn't been.
zoom in a little bit, Dolores? I don't think you can quite see it. Yeah, that helps.
So
Perfect.
3,500 sales of that one card, only 78 views, which I think is super weird. But I know that Lindy has done a little bit of research here and she has found that this card pops up in the first 10 on 1-800 Flowers. And so I think that's what's made it really jump in
Mhm.
sales because it's how it is when you're ordering flowers and then you have this upsell at the end and you're going to pick a card. How many cards are you going to go through at that point? Well, I might
Mhm.
go through 2 or 3 pages of them, but then I'm going to stop. I'm not going to necessarily go all the way through. So I think that's possibly what's happened and made that particular artwork or card just jump a lot recently. So I'm showing you this because I want this to incentivize you to pursue this because it's a definite other income stream for you. If you're doing in-person sales, that's one way. Wholesale is another way. Art licensing is another way. POD and this thing with Cardile is another thing again. So that's a bunch of different things. So even if you were to just set aside one day of the week or one day of the month even where you're going to do a bunch of work on your stores, your POD sites, that would be a really valuable use of your time. And as Lindy has pointed out, and so has Annalie, is that it's better to spread out your posting for something like Cardile. So you might want to set your limit at only 2 a day. So that might take you 15 minutes in the morning. And every day you're uploading rather than sitting and doing them 50 of them over the weekend,
Mhm.
because you're going to get much more attention to them. And I have found that that works better for uploading them, for them approving it and making it
Mhm.
live on their sites.
Yeah, I wish there was more analytics when it comes to Cardile. Things that I would love for them to share would be a realistic timeline on how long it takes to upload. The process right now to getting stuff uploaded and then getting stuff actually put on Cardile is a little bit longer than normal. It used to be about a 2 to 3 week turnaround. Now they're saying it's about a month to 2 months. But for some people, they've still seen that 3 week window. I think it just depends. I do have a couple more questions that I want to ask Cardile just to get again. I to me, I'll ask the questions whether they answer or not is something completely different, but I'm not real afraid to ask because you never know. And Annalie was the same way. She
Yeah.
would, and they pretty much would answer anything as long as it's not, you're not asking about anything that's proprietary or
Yeah.
anything like that. I know some people have asked recently if the cards that they had uploaded had they all been reviewed, whether or not they've been reviewed, and they were able to tell them yes, we've reviewed everything and we've listed everything.
That was
And
a
so that was like,
question there in the chat here.
mhm.
Is do in at Cardile whether or not they are ever rejected. And I've not had that experience. And Melanie was
No.
asking, can you do all the work in bulk and then save it to upload later?
No, there's really no way that I know of to be able to do any of it in bulk. That's the tedious part of Cardile, and that's okay for me. I could put it all in a spreadsheet, but if I can't really say, okay, that one day I'm going to just port it over and be done with it, it was just easier for me to do the method that I do because it is tedious. The hashtags have to be all entered one at a time. All the pros have to be copied and pasted in. So there's really no way to speed up that process. So for me, to build consistency and not be overwhelmed, it was just easier to do 2 a day. Sometimes I do more if I have more, but I try not to overwhelm them too much. So that's just what I've taken.
Yeah,
Wait,
I
but
create,
Lindy,
or
but
sorry,
Lindy, do it and save it for later. Like if I had a lot of time today, I couldn't do 20 and then drip them out to a day. Okay,
Mm-mm.
that's
Yeah, no,
unfortunate.
I won't save it. You have to, because you have to do the save the changes right then and there,
Gotcha.
to save the form. Yeah, so that's the unfortunate part. Yeah, it's hard to batch them out. So that's I just decided to do. I could batch out the work and keep that work in a folder, but if I'm gonna have to still enter everything else manually, then I'm gonna keep it at 2 a day and keep it manageable.
And
I'm gonna
Dolores,
I'm gonna tell you one thing about this. We have Anywhere POD coming to speak
I was
with
going to
us on
ask that.
Friday. And one of the things I wanted to mention is that they are automating their whole process so that, and I'll have to wait to have them explain it again and explain it more clearly to you, but they are taking that process and doing it for you. So Judy, is that what you were going to say?
I was going to say, do we know if Anywhere Pod is posting up onto Cardile?
I have no idea yet, but that's something I would
Yeah.
definitely suggest to them. So I have been talking with Anna and can't remember his name, the owner and the main girl that works for him, and we've had a couple of live calls, and they're really excited about getting more partnerships like this going. So if they do, then that would be one of the things that would be super awesome. So that would solve Melanie's problem because she could just have all of it together and all of the uploading would be done for you. So Anywhere POD, that is what their thing is. That's so different from other POD sites, is that they work with all of these other suppliers like Printify, Printful, I can't remember all the different ones, and they take what you have and they broadcast that out to those other sites. So on Friday, make sure you're there so that you can hear all about that process.
That Scott and Shelley have a really good question that I'd like to hear answered as well.
Okay, sure.
Just came up.
Yeah, I've seen there are some similar websites that people use within the resale community. If anybody, I love watching resale videos and see what people find at random places. So I know in the resale community, there are lots of different programs like that that allow them to cross list and be able to set everything up in one place and have it kind of distributed through all of their sites like Mercari and eBay and
I know that
Etsy and stuff like that. So it would definitely be a game changer to be able to do that.
for Cardile.
I think the problem with Cardile would be that they don't have the most up-to-date type website. It's very basic and it's a little antiquated at times. And it's like,
well, here's hoping
not, yeah,
that now that 1-800 has bought them, that they're going to improve that.
Yeah. And so you'll see, like, if you do Cardile, you'll see this, it's like Celebrations by Cardile, which is the direct to consumer site. And so that's kind of like a front page to the old Cardile site because they're still using the same domain name. So when you go onto Cardile and you want to sign up as an artist, that's usually what you see, is that kind of direct to consumer page. And they only have about 7, I think it's like close to 800 cards listed on there, but there's no artist search feature. It's easier to navigate, but it doesn't have the full library. And then when you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see the link to sign up as an artist. And then it'll take you basically to the old Cardile website that's kind of hidden under there. And so you can still navigate those through that site too. That's where you'll find your portal, like Dolores had pulled up.
Yeah.
So,
I want to also mention one thing is that I have run into trouble using the Cardile uploading process and putting in the pros on Safari. So if you ever have trouble, just flip into another browser like Chrome to do the pros on the inside. It does give you trouble on Safari sometimes. Now, one of the things that you guys just mentioned, listing in your different shops. I know that they do Etsy and they do Shopify already. And so I think they're still working on, and Printify, they're working on it. So I think they have 5 or 6 of them listed there. I have also in Canada, so if any of you are here in Canada, I've used Art of Wear wholesale. So I have purchased cards through Art of Wear, printed, but I can also integrate it to my Shopify store. So you can upload your cards or whatever you're creating. I mean, they do everything, scarves and shorts and skirts and purses and all kinds of stuff. They can integrate right to your Etsy shop or your Shopify store. So there are many sites and different companies that do this. So, depending on what your model is, what you're wanting to do with your product, you definitely have to check out all of these different possibilities.
So Dolores, you say you have an Etsy store in Canada. You're in Canada. You have an Etsy store. You link your print on demand to Art of Wear, and they'll print your cards for you and then distribute it somewhere in Canada. And that's a Canadian venture.
It's a seller of cards. The only thing that I found is that you couldn't order individual cards. You had to order in that quantity that Lindy talked about, 6 orders of 6. So I would be wholesaling to gift shops that were selling my work. And so I was, and most gift shops are very used to the idea that they have to order in quantities of 6. And so I don't know why they don't do individual cards. Maybe it's just never proven to be cost efficient. But
that answers the
very
question.
good quality.
So you could put your cards in your Etsy shop, link them to Art of Wear, and you could put them also in Cardile, and that's all cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're when you're not licensing your cards, you still own the rights to use the card any way that you want. Now, that would limit the fact that I could then not get art licensing for those particular cards unless I were to pull them from those sites.
Right.
So most art licensing partners are going to be specifically wanting you to be exclusive. And the only way of getting around that is by not caring and just being super prolific. So just the faster you get at doing what you want to do is the less it is important, because I don't know about you, Lindy, but if you have to do another birthday card, no problem. You can just
Yeah.
do a bunch more artwork and do a bunch more birthday cards. So if I was to be offering something up for art licensing, the line of cards that I most recently created, which is what I started in my foundations course last year at this time, that I have not listed anywhere because I want to be able to license those cards. So I'm just in the process of getting ready to go out and pitch that line of cards. It's just I'm too darn busy with this school and all this other stuff that I'm doing. So I haven't had a chance to get that done. But thanks for the question, Judy.
On Art of Wear, Dolores, what size cards are those that they were doing? Are they the smaller cards, the
No, the bigger one.
corner? Okay.
They're full 5x7. They have a really nice stiff stock. It's a very nicely done card. Very, very nice. And I've had my cards printed everywhere. Card Aisle, Zazzle, any Staples, any of the places that I talk about in my classes. I've had samples printed from all of the different places. And I found that the ones from Zazzle and the ones from Art of Wear were excellent quality that I'm happy to sell wholesale to stores and have on the shelves. The card aisle cards are different in that they reduce the artwork a tiny bit so that it has a white border. So when they print it, it's not a full bleed off the top and sides of your card. So that's just a little bit different. And they use, if they are still using it, they use more of a linen card stock, which is quite pretty. A really pure white. It's really nice. Can't think of the other one. Staples, I've had very good quality. I've had really great quality through FedEx. So, it's just, I would suggest, if you're thinking of either selling them in person or you're just going to have them sent directly from the supplier, like for example, Art of Wear, I don't see the card. The card goes straight from Art of Wear to the store I'm wholesaling to. And so I wanted to get samples of them to make sure that I was sending a decent quality. Because I have had the experience where a gift shop has gotten hold of me and said, these aren't the same as last time. And I want them to be the same as last time. So you have to be quite careful with that and make sure that you test the quality, you have a good handle on what you're sending out to customers, because you don't want to have that situation.
Yeah, that's definitely a huge recommendation for POD. Even if it's not greeting cards, anything that you choose to put on POD, it's really beneficial if you can get a copy of that in your hands in order to judge the quality, because you always want things to feel good and feel nice. And I want things to feel luxurious. I want, to have that higher price point feel, because I feel, well, the better quality it is, then the higher you can sell it for. And two, it just feels nice. You always want someone to kind of like think, oh, this is really nice quality, and kind of be almost surprised by it versus, like, oh, I don't like the way this feels at all,
Yeah. And that you actually mentioned at the beginning, and we haven't talked about it at all, is the having your cards printed yourself and how much of a money saver it is. So
It
we're
is.
talking about these sites where you have to pay probably $1.50 to $2.50 a card. And what I have done when I'm doing craft sales, and Lindy has started to do as well, is I started having my own cards printed probably about 10 or 15 years ago when Vistaprint first, and we started hearing about Vistaprint. And I started to create my own cards. And at first I was just using their greeting cards. So they had these little cards that were about 4.25 by 5.5 inches. And pretty much my whole line of cards has been built around that size. That's what I take to craft sales, or used to, excuse me. And what I discovered through my years of experience was that I could get an extra large postcard printed, And therefore I could get 25 cards instead of getting only 10 cards. And it worked out to be, I can't remember now what the price is, but I think about $25 for 25 cards, let's say. And of course, I'm doing the math because of the exchange rate, but now it's in Canada as well. So Vistaprint, you can order from Canada, from the US, and they improved the stock quality, the paper quality considerably over the years. And they have a really nice premium stock right now that feels like velvet. It's just gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. So I print the extra large postcard, which is my greeting card flattened. So it's smaller than, or sorry, this is the size of the front of it. This particular one happens to be a postcard, but that's the size of the card. And this is not the stock that I'm talking about. This was their previous stock, which is quite nice, shiny. You could get it shiny or matte, but now they have an even better quality stock, and it is absolutely stunning. And so I also have always printed the insides of my cards. So that was a question that Melanie posed earlier. And so what I would do is maybe the background, I would do from the front of the card, I would put that on the inside of the card, but just really, really subtly, and maybe add a couple of little flowers on the open flat card. So the card would be open and you would see just little bits of decoration there. And sometimes we added lettering inside, but lots of times we just left them blank. So that was one of the real advantages of working with Vistaprint. We could do this really custom card that nobody else was doing. And then we also would print a little envelope seal. So I used their return address label to make a little coordinating label that would go into the package with the card, with the envelope, and then this little envelope seal. And so when we were selling these both wholesale and in person at markets, they sold like hotcakes. They really sold, and we would always be selling them in quantities of either 6, 10, or 20. And we had lots of margin for profit there because of how little we were paying for each card. And we made a killing on those cards. So if you're doing in-person sales, I would strongly suggest that you try to find a supplier or use Vistaprint to produce your cards in quantity like that. So as a big postcard, all we had to do was we used a scoring, we had the Martha Stewart scoring board and it worked perfectly. We just kind of had it marked where we needed to score. And I have pictures. Well, you could go back to my website and look at my blog posts and look at the articles of my daughter and doing craft sales. And there's a stack of cards, probably 400 or 500 cards like that she has spent the evening scoring. So all of my children worked as slaves for me at some point or another. So they would be scoring or they would be putting things into the wrappers or whatever. We had a little sweatshop over there in my other house and my other studio. So my kids were instrumental in the success of my business. Oh, perfect. You've got one there, Lindy. Okay, great. So you can see how she could print the front and the back of the card, but she could also print the inside if she wanted to.
Yeah, so I think it's with this one, yeah. So it just folds, and then I scored it like Dolores said in the center, and so you get that nice fold. And I hope to be able to do the inside printing. Right now, I'm trying to keep my cost as low as possible since it is a new item for me to sell, and they have done better. And they've been doing really well. So I have certain cards that have been selling quite a bit, others that have been a little bit slower. But overall, it's been a really good add to my business. And I've been able to just bring something that's new and that's different. And I do like the craft paper envelope, and then I do a little clear cellophane so that way everything's nice and protected when I have it at markets, because you kind of never know what's going to happen at a market. So I like that they're all protected. And so I think it's just greeting cards have just off and on, I've had them. Like, in the very beginning of my business, I hand lettered greeting cards, but I could never get someone to really pay the value of a hand lettered greeting card that's a one of a kind. And so this has been definitely more of a cost effective way. I think all in, I use FedEx for my printing. I do their postcard printing through them. The colors are pretty vibrant, and it's pretty much very close to what I see on screen when I'm printing them. I've had no problems with them. The paperweight is nice. It has a smooth feel to it. So with them, with everything, envelope, card, and even the bag, I think if I'm at $1, I don't even know if I'm quite at $1. I've been able to get them
Lindy,
when they have coupons.
so you use a different, like that's not going to be for card aisle because it's
No,
got
yeah.
pockets. So you've got like, here's a bunch of cards for this application, here's a bunch of cards for that, here's some card aisle cards, yada yada yada.
But I tried to use, but I've also used cards that I've made for card aisle and added them
Expanded
to my
it, yeah.
line also,
Yeah,
because
but
I have
you have
that
to be
full
cognizant of that.
library.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I have over 300 cards. I think it's like 390 cards on card aisle. So I have a good library now to choose from. And so right now, as I gear into moving into the fourth quarter, when my markets kind of start for me in Texas, it's too hot to do anything during the summer. Right now, I have stuff that I can pull from and themes that I want to bring to the table for some new sales. I want to try some Christmas cards, but I'm always nervous because I don't want to get stuck with that inventory. But I do want to maybe just do a selection of some Christmas cards that I could maybe sell in a cute little set, and maybe just offer those at a little bit more of a discount since they are holiday related. But yeah, overall it's been, and right now greeting cards for me are selling between $5 and $6. So the margins are really good.
Yeah, that's why we would sell them, and we still have a warehouse full of them over here. So if anybody wants a card, just let me know.
You know, I'm actually at the point now where I can't stand getting a card. I used to hand make cards all the time, and I still do custom wedding cards for people. I'll do hand lettering with the date and some custom artwork on it, blah, watercolor, blah, blah, blah. I charge like $20. This good friend, she's always got people getting married. But now I'm like, I don't want any cards. Don't give me a card because I've got such a collection of cards people have given me over the years. And I've got one from my mom, and my mom's passed away now, and I can't bear to throw it out. And it's like, they feel like a burden to me. I love them and I hate them.
Well, that's probably a good spot for us to end this meeting because now we've gone way, way, way over. Judy, I think that's really funny because I have piles of cards everywhere too, and I can't bear to let go of them. And when I was teaching, there was a lady that used to come in and bring us piles of cards. And a lot of times we would just reuse them for crafts of sorts, but that's about the only thing. But I do keep them. I can't help myself.
I can't help it either. So
I have
don't give me any more.
I have a good my priest from back home, me and my mom, he would, anytime he would get a card, he would cut the front of the card off, and he would write a message, and he would send it, he sends it to somebody else. So that's how he recycles his cards.
Excellent.
And my mom has a friend too that's a recycle artist, and so she kind of does the same thing. Is she takes the front artwork and she'll embroider on it, or she'll embellish it, and then she'll write a note, and then she sends it to someone else. So there's always good use. If you have too many cards laying around, you could share them with somebody else. So that's always something good. And my mom is the queen of greeting cards. Every holiday, she's sending them out to our friends, to our family, and they just love getting them. And at one point last year, she was like, I'm not going to do it anymore. It's just too much to keep up with it. Postage is getting so expensive. I'm just going to get it up. And I kid you not, every family member that we would run into, or a friend that we would run into, be like, oh my gosh, I got your card. I just want to tell you, it means so much to me every time I get a greeting card from you. And I mean, we must have had 10 different people that the first thing they told her is, we really appreciate you sending that card and really connecting with us, even though we don't get to connect all the time. So,
Yeah.
it is very much, greeting card in the business is very much alive and well. And
My mom used to say, I didn't get a Christmas card from so-and-so this year. They must have died.
Okay.
That was how you knew when somebody
yes,
was gone.
unfortunately, yes.
Thank you guys for showing up and your patience again at the beginning with the glitch. I think Kaylee has emailed me and said that she did get an email out, but I'm going to hop off. We're going to hop off this call just so that I have time to edit it, to put it up hopefully today. So I'll do my best to get this session up there. And I so much appreciate all of you being here. Tomorrow, what I'm going to do is address specific issues anybody is having with any of either the templates or any of the projects that you have started, any of the lessons that you've watched. So if you have time today, if you have an issue that you could actually post it either on the Facebook group or in the membership in the community so that I can be prepared for whatever the question is. So I'm happy to demonstrate anything that you have an issue with. Tomorrow is going to be a demonstration lesson for the whole live. As long as I have stuff to demonstrate, I can do that for you. So if you can think of anything you want to ask me, it would be just wonderful if you could give me that information tonight or at some point in the morning tomorrow so that I can be prepared. All right. But thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for hanging out with me today. I am thrilled that we've had so many people. I've had signups as of even 15 minutes ago. Somebody just signed up for the VIP. So that means that we've had the best year ever for the greeting card challenge. So I am beyond thankful and I appreciate you being here at my live sessions. And I better
Thank you,
get off
guys.
this call before I start doing something silly like crying.
Okay.
See you tonight if you're coming to Thrive.